But a story that could have huge global ramifications is our top story at the moment. The United States and Russia have held talks on the Ukraine war. The United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov have met in Saudi Arabia. The Putin-Trump summit is now unlikely next week. But this meeting throws hope that maybe the war in Ukraine can end. The Ukrainian President Zelensky has met the Turkish President Erdogan, meanwhile in Ankara. Zelensky has made it clear he is not prepared to give up territory to Russia. What lies ahead? Either way, this could become a big story building up globally at the moment. Let's listen in first to what was said out of the meeting by Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State.
Well, I would start by saying we've agreed on 4 principles that I think are important. The first is that we're going to appoint our teams respectively to work very quickly to reestablish the functionality of our respective missions in Washington and in Moscow. For us to be able to continue to move down this road, we need to have diplomatic facilities that are operating and functioning normally. The second point is that we're going to appoint a high-level team from our end to help negotiate and work through the end of the conflict in Ukraine in a way that's enduring and acceptable to all the parties engaged.
The conversation was, I think, very useful. We did not just listen, but heard each other. And I have reason to believe that American side has become more understanding of our position, which we have once again presented in detail and with specific examples on the basis of President Putin's multiple statements. All of us Ukrainians want the war to end, but of course, based on certain security guarantees. We want these security guarantees to be given by the whole of Europe, including Turkey, US and the European Union.
Joining us now from our World Today bureau is Shashank Mattu, joins us to find out more on that. Shashank, prima facie, this seems as a potential beginning of a breakthrough, but the Ukrainians were not present at the meeting, Zelensky meeting the Turkish President Erdogan. What happens next? What happens over the next couple of weeks? Could we see an end to the war as early as a month from now?
Well, Rajdeep, it's very, very clear coming out of this meeting that America and Russia are convinced that both sides are looking for an end to the conflict. That's what Secretary of State Rubio said, that he's convinced that Russia wants an end to the conflict, which is an important statement. But he did say this is the first in a set of very, very long and difficult steps to end the conflict. What's going to happen now is a set of 3 processes. First, the embassies of Russia and America are going to start dealing with each other more normally. They have faced severe restrictions over the last 10 years. They're going to start dealing much more normally with each other so that there can be a proper diplomatic dialogue. Secondly, high-level teams are going to start meeting in the coming weeks. These teams are going to discuss some of the really key issues in the Ukraine conflict. Who controls Ukrainian territory after the conflict ends? What kind of security guarantees does Russia have to give to show that they will not invade Ukraine again as they did in the past? That is going to be absolutely key, and those technical issues are going to have to be discussed by the teams. Also, a broader normalization of efforts between Russia and America, which could include the removal of sanctions on Russia's economy. And finally, of course, this will probably lead to a much anticipated summit meeting between President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Both sides have indicated that they are very, very keen to have that deal happen and have that move extremely quickly. So that's what we're going to see in the next coming weeks and months.
Very quickly, where does this leave Ukraine? Because President Zelensky has made it clear he's not going to cede any Ukrainian territory. Will there eventually, is there possibility there with the likes of the Turkish president intervening that you could have possibly a Zelensky meeting as well with the other side?
Well, Zelensky is in a very unenviable position at this point in time. We've just had news that he was supposed to go into Saudi Arabia, where the talks between the United States and Russia have been happening right now. Unfortunately, he seems to have just now cancelled his visit or postponed it, which puts him in an unenviable position because he's essentially been pushed out of the negotiating process. This is really America and Russia, the big boys, at the table discussing this. In fact, European nations are also not at the table. So it's an unenviable position, not a lot of clarity for Ukraine. If you're President Zelensky, you don't know how America is thinking about your role in negotiating the conflict. He is, of course, trying to talk to players like Turkey, but the fact that he's not going to Saudi Arabia shows that, in fact, at this point in time, he is not an absolute absolutely critical player. But America has made clear that in the coming weeks, as high-level teams meet, they will absolutely be in touch with President Zelensky. They will talk to the Ukrainian team. They will talk to the Europeans. They won't sideline them. But this initial, if you're Zelensky, this initial meeting shows some very troubling signs for you that you're not necessarily on the table for America and Russia.
And it also perhaps puts the Europeans on the back foot. They're already struggling to deal with the world under Donald Trump. So the Europeans are almost being pushed to the corner with Trump directly now dealing with the Russians. And we'll have to wait and see how Europe looks at this latest move by Donald Trump. Clearly, he is a president in a hurry. Now, can he resolve the Ukraine war issue? Could well become a major challenge for him as he sort of showcases Trump 2.0. Shashank Mattu joining us with the details from our international team.